Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to be doing an anticipated reading vlog, part 1. This intro is about to be very messy because I have some explaining to do. So this vlog is me reading some of my most anticipated releases of the year, as well as kind of a Battleathon vlog, because the point of Battleathon is to try and read 5 stars, and I happen to think a lot of my anticipated releases will be 5 stars. But I started this vlog before Battleathon, so the first book in this video is not going to count for Battleathon. And also, in this video, basically the video changed while I was filming it. So originally this video was supposed to come out in August, and I was supposed to read Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang and Labyrinth's Heart by Emmy Carrick. Those were the two that I was planning on doing, and I was going to post it in August, and then in September I was going to do a part 2, which was going to include Fragile Threads of Power and The Chalice of the Gods by Rick Riordan. Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. Did I say that? I don't think I did. I got Labyrinth's Heart, and I was trying to get through all of my TBR, and I got through everything except Labyrinth's Heart, and I read like 5 pages so I could fulfill my TBR. And then I was like, okay, as I was getting towards the end of August and I knew I wasn't going to finish everything, but I could get everything except Labyrinth's Heart done, I ended up saying, well, it makes sense for me to save it because I'm hopeful that it will be a 5-star. And so I ended up saving it, and I'll come back to it in September. So obviously September is here. Basically this video changed again. So it is still me reading my most anticipated releases of the year, but it is 3 instead of 2, and I'll just tell you what they are. So in this video I'm going to be reading Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang, Witch King by Martha Wells, and Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo. The reason why I didn't end up doing Labyrinth's Heart in this video is because I had 2 days off, and I was like, I can get Witch King done in 2 days, but I think it'll take me 3 days to read Labyrinth's Heart. And so I'm going to do a part 2. As I mentioned before, I'm going to read Fragile Threads of Power and The Chalice of the Gods, but I will also include Labyrinth's Heart in that part. And that should be it'll either be my last video in September or one of the first videos in October. Are you following? I think that is all I have to say. So let's just get into the reading. Okay, so I've decided to stop and update you because that would be a good idea. I was not going to. I was just gonna keep reading. It's really readable. Like, I think more readable than The Sword of Kaigen was, though I did find myself flying through that as well. But I'm liking it so far. I'm very intrigued. I wasn't sure at first. The Blood Over Brighthaven, I'm not sure, are we going to get his perspective again, because we got it in the first chapter but we haven't had it since. But anyway, we seem to kind of mostly follow one character, and she has studied this magic her whole life. She's, I think, 27, and she sets herself the goal of becoming the first female high mage, and she manages to achieve this, but there are a lot of obstacles in her way, and she is set basically an impossible task and is given no help with it. And so, except for one man who was part of this group of people, like, they're really looked down on and not well liked really by the population of this city. And yeah, at first I wasn't sure about it because it is quite academic setting, which isn't really my thing, and definitely does have those dark academia vibes. So if you're interested in that, maybe this will intrigue you. But I think M.L. Wang, she really plays with magic and technology in a very interesting way, and also like playing with very traditional, almost old-fashioned ideas, but also having a lot of the book have like quite modern things as well. I'm enjoying it so far, but it is quite a frustrating read, and yeah, it's frustrating because there's a lot of misogyny, and also there's a lot of like bias against our other character, who everyone calls Tommy, but his name is actually Thomel. Yeah, but it is extremely readable, which I did also find that with The Sword of Kaigen, but I think this one is slightly more readable than The Sword of Kaigen. Yeah, I don't think I have too much more to add on. It is quite different in tone, but also definitely shares some similar themes of, like, you know, women wanting more for themselves and kind of being forced or thinking everyone around them thinking that they should fit this certain traditional mold. Yeah, I'm liking it so far, so that's good. So I'm now 37% of the way into Blood Over Brighthaven, and I'm really liking it so far. I feel the instinct to be like, oh, I prefer Sword of Kaigen though, but also I think actually at this point in Sword of Kaigen, I still thought that it was going to be a 4-star, so there's potential. I feel like there's a lot of interesting conversations happening, but I'm kind of nervous. In the book, it's like, and in the trigger warnings and a lot of the reviews I see, it's like described a lot as like brutal, and like there's like trigger warning for like gore and essay and things like that, and none of that has happened yet, and I'm very nervous about that happening, because is it just there to be like, look how brutal this world is, or is it there to actually have a conversation? I realize I don't think I ever come back to this thought discussion that I was having, but it was all fine. Which I did have faith in LL Wang, but like also when I hear like dark fantasy and all those kind of things, and you know, it does make me a little nervous that it's gonna just be brutal for the sake of brutality. That is not the case with this book. Like the gore and all of that, it was saying something, and it was an important part to the story and building up this world, and it all worked out. So yeah, I do have faith in Emma Wang because she did a lot of really interesting conversations in the Sword of Kaigen very well, and also, not gonna lie, I'm a little more confident because it's a woman. You can judge me for that, but a lot of the time when men throw those things in, it is for the sake of, look how dark this world is. So I have a little more faith that she will actually have interesting conversations about these things. Also, I'm not like someone who has any trigger warnings, but I can't be annoyed when things aren't handled well, so, which I think everyone can be. So yeah, but I feel like I have a lot to say. I think it was very interesting the way the first chapter was written from Tomel's perspective, and so I assumed, kind of like a Sword of Kaigen, it was going to be to a point of POV, but it's not. It is almost, well, so far anyway, except for that first chapter, it's been all her point of view, which is very interesting because we get this glimpse into him, and so we have this like small understanding of him better than she does, and we're just like getting the world building that way because she's teaching him, and then every so often he like leaves a hint of like about his culture and magic and all of this stuff, and so it's very interesting. She is a very frustrating character to read from. I think she's a character that people will love or hate. I'm currently liking her. She's very much, you know, she's very self-obsessed, and she thinks she's extremely important, and she is very much like a female rage, ready to take everyone down. She's not going to say take no for an answer. It's very interesting, but it's very interesting when contrasted with Tamil, because she thinks her life is so incredibly hard, and it is. She has a lot of challenges facing her, but it is very frustrating being in her head because we know from glimpses of Tamil and from like his reaction to things, he has it a lot worse, and she is so focused on herself that she doesn't realize that, and it is so interesting to read. And I think it kind of reminds me a little bit, but not too much, because this one's more like sex versus like race, whereas in like what I'm thinking of, which is A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan, it was more class versus, and like social standing versus sex, because like in that book, Isabella, she is very wealthy and she marries wealthy, and she is seen as odd, and but her husband and her father, they let her entertain these things, and so she gets accepted into kind of these learning circles, whereas like one of her companions in that story, he was born poor, he really had to fight for his education, and he's not taken seriously, and he also had to fight, which she also had to fight. But there's an interesting conversation about the barriers. Is it easier to overcome sex or class? And that's also kind of an interesting discussion here. People of Brighthaven, they're all like, they think they're superior to the Queen. They're savages, brutes, uneducated, etc, etc. And so, but they also like don't educate them. And you're like, okay. And so like there's no way that he has these opportunities to do these things, but it's still an interesting discussion of like how hard she has fought to get into her position, but she is still so privileged compared to the Queen, and she absolutely does not recognize this. And it makes it like, it's very strange to read from her because you were both rooting for her and also extremely frustrated by her. Yeah, it's very strange because obviously you want her to prove all of these men wrong, but also you're like, oh my god, you are so blind to the struggles of others. But yeah, so it's very interesting. I've read 10 more percent and it is getting much darker. Which people said that it was brutal and it was dark, and yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be a very sad book. I'm trying to think of a good word. I feel like it is going to be very like the Sword of Hagen, where overall it is a very sad, upsetting book and very terrible things happen, but that it might end on a slightly hopeful tone. I'm hoping so, because I mean, the Sword of Hagen, it's very sad. There's a lot of death and trauma, and there's a lot of stuff that happens in that, but the ending is slightly hopeful. I feel like in fantasy books often, like, you know, you're outnumbered, but you know, and yes, there's losses and tragic things happen, but you know, at the end of the day it all comes together and they save the day. Obviously that doesn't always happen, but I feel like in Sword of Hagen, like, there was and there wasn't a win. Like, there wasn't, and which is very realistic, let's be honest. And I feel like that's going to be the case in here as well, because like, I don't see how they can win. But also it would be an extremely depressing novel if there isn't some sort of win, hope, whatever at the end. Hi, so it's been a little while since I was last talking to you, because basically I was really enjoying the book and I still am, but I kind of took a little break because basically just stuff happening. I was a little stressed, so I started my reread of Dark Shade of Magic. And now I'm on to A Gathering of Shadows. So yeah, and I will say definitely improved my mood, so that's good. Like, those books, they're a warm hug. This book is not a warm hug. I'm still enjoying it, but like, it's not supposed to be nice. So I just needed, I think, a little break from it, because other stuff was happening. I just needed a little break. And also it was, I think, like, literally the last time I spoke to you, I literally read like 1 or 2 more chapters after I spoke to you, and then our main character, like, she was quite horrible, and I was like, oh, I take back all I just said about you. Basically, I think what my plan is going to be is I'm going to try and finish my reread of Gathering of Shadows today. I'm not going to talk about these obviously in here, but I have like 300-ish pages left of it, but I should honestly be able to do that real quick. Say if I have this finished by 4 o'clock this evening, then I switch over to Blood Over Brighthaven. I think I could get it all done because it was actually a quick enough read when I read it. Okay, so I'm about 2/3 of the way in, which I would like to say, like, I've only been reading for about 50 minutes and I've read like 20%. So like, it really is a quick read, because I think 20%, how much would that be? 80-ish pages, which is really good timing actually. So it is a really quick read. And oh god, this is a frustrating read, but like, it's meant to be. And like, the thing is, because like, we kind of just had like a bit of like, not necessarily a reveal, because I kind of already knew that it was going to happen, but we had something talked about, and like, it felt like cartoonishly evil. But then I'm like, you know, actual human history has shown us that yeah, people just suck. There is like one part of my brain that's like, nobody would be like that. And then I'm like, no, there's definitely people who will like that. As I said, I'm like 60 whatever percent in. Still don't really know where the story is going. Like, obviously I understand, like, at the beginning it was, you know, her goal was, you know, to get into this academy, and then when she did that, which isn't a spoiler, that's in the synopsis, her goal is like this project that they're all working on, and she wants to prove everyone went wrong. But now I don't really know, like, all of the things that she's come across and found out. I don't really know what the end goal is. I'm probably just gonna finish it before I speak to you again, to be honest. Hello. So it has been a while since I last spoke to you. It's been a month. Yeah, I haven't even actually told you my feelings on Blood Over Battlehaven, which I read like 2 weeks ago. But I got an Amazon package, which I would like to say I try not to buy from Amazon. On A Labyrinth's Heart, I went into my bookstore. I went into 2. Neither had it, so I bought it off Amazon. And I also bought more books while I was at it. Okay, so first I have the black, like, collector's editions of A Gathering of Shadows and Conjuring of Light. I already have the first one, but I wanted these 2. They look nice. Do I need more copies? No, but I wanted them. So there's actually a bonus story in the end of this one, which I read online, but I read the series 5 times. I only actually discovered that it was a story like last time I read them, so like the 4th time, and it's like his backstory, and it's like 8 pages. If you can find it online, you should read it. I also got The Witch King by Maxwell, which I'm not going to read in this vlog, but I'm going to talk about this though. Ooh, that's actually quite nice. It's just our signature. That's actually quite cute. So it's been a little while since I finished Blood Over Battlehaven. I may have left too much time, some may say. I definitely left too much time. Whoops. But anyway, I finished it and I give it 4 out of 5 stars. I know I didn't update the most in the last like half, I would say, but anything else that I was gonna kind of like say would have been spoilery, so I didn't really want to talk about it any more than I had already done. I kept comparing it to The Sword of Kaigan the whole time. I'm like trying not to, because I'm like, it's a story by itself. It's a completely different vibe. It's a completely different world, completely different characters. It's not trying to be The Sword of Kaigan. So I was like, obviously they share an author, but I'm like, but they're not anywhere close to being the same story. So like I kept trying not to do it, and I kept doing it. So I do think that there are some similarities. Obviously, both were written by the same person. And I do think that they both actually, the writing style is quite similar in both of them. I think maybe it's slightly more polished in Blood Over Battlehaven, which you would expect with time. This was a very quick read, and the same can be said for Blood Over Battlehaven. Both of them, Emma Wang, she has a really solid writing style, I think. I don't think there's anything like exceptional, like where you're going to be like, oh my god, this is the most beautiful, lyrical, like, no, that's not her writing style. It works for me. It is, I think, a good amount of description, a good amount of dialogue, and it does flow very well, and it is a very quick read. I mean, this is a big book. Blood Over Battlehaven is also a big book, and I could fly through pages and pages and pages in basically no time. So that's great. And then also they do have like some themes in common. Both of these stories center women as one of the main characters anyway, and basically their struggles with, you know, womanhood, what's expected of them by society. I think what I appreciate is the way she went about them in both stories is very different, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed seeing the difference. I'll also say they share a pretty similar tone, where throughout a lot of the book there is just like this sadness and hopelessness, but there are just like these small moments of hope, and I think that's done in both books. The main plot and the main goal of the story and the atmosphere of the story, they are very different, and also the characters are too. And I think the characters tie in to all of the other stuff that I'm talking about. I would say the characters and plots, because in both of them I think the characters have a huge role in the plot. I will say, I think perhaps Blood Over Battlehaven might work for you better if you are just a plot-driven reader. The plot in here is the characters and how they react and interact, and how these themes of like war and womanhood and motherhood and loss and grief and all of these things, they're explored through this family. And so you love these characters, you hate these characters, they are complicated, you feel for them, you really get to know them and understand them, and you follow like the story of like this entire place and the war that is coming. All of this plot and these themes, they are explored through this one family. People can still like read it and they'll appreciate what it is saying and what it is doing, but maybe it won't hit as hard if you don't love the characters. Whereas Blood Over Brighthaven, yes, the characters obviously still have an extremely important role in the story, but I don't think it's as necessary to like really connect or love those characters to get the full impact of the plot and the story. And I think, again, it does definitely help in this. Like, if you feel and connect those to the characters, you're going to probably love it. But for me, I didn't personally really love and connect to these characters as much in the Sword as I did with the characters in the Sword of Dragon, which is why I think it was a 4 stars. But I still really enjoyed where the story went, how the plot played out, how it ended. I still loved how that all went. The characters in this, I mean, what an interesting character. I can't even remember her name at this point. It is so fascinating to be in her head. Like, a unique experience, let's say. Because it's so strange being in her head, because you will be rooting for her because you want her to prove all of these horrible men wrong. And then she will just go and say something or do something and you'll be like, oh, you are a terrible person. And the book just constantly goes like that in cycles. And it's so, I think it's such an interesting way to go about it, because she, like, as a character, she's so focused on her oppression as a woman that she is completely blind to anyone else's problems. And it is such a unique main character to follow, an incredibly frustrating main character to follow, and I think a lot of people will really, really love and appreciate that about this. So Blood Over Brighthaven, I gave that a 4 out of 5 stars, and I did really enjoy it. This was basically also a review of the Sword of Dragon because I just kept comparing the two, and so I decided to just make that my review. So this vlog has changed from what it was originally was, which I'm sure I'm gonna actually change the entire intro that I had filmed for this so that it reflects the new plan. I'm about to start The Witch King. Just Witch King by Martha Wells, and I'm very excited for this. Also, first I'm gonna go take all this off, and I cleaned my makeup brushes and discovered that they're stained green, so I'm not looking forward to trying to take this off my eyeballs. I'm gonna go do the dishes, take this off, and I have literally nothing else to do. It's about 7 o'clock, half 7. And also I have the TV on, which I just realized that I should not have the TV on while I'm talking to you. Okay, so I didn't read quite as much as I wanted to. I'm on page 103, and I wanted to get to 207, which is halfway. So I only got a quarter of the way through, but I want to finish this tomorrow, which I still think is possible because like 300 pages I should be able to do, and I don't have as much stuff to do tomorrow as I do today. Number 1, I think I have a good feeling about this. It could be a 5 star. But I can definitely see why a lot of people, because like it has a pretty low average rating, I would say, on Goodreads. And I can see why, because I think a lot of people would have gone in with the wrong expectations. And I think a lot of people like thought that it would be like epic fantasy, and I kind of knew that that wasn't what this was going to be, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, and I'm liking it. Like, I don't necessarily think there's that much of a plot. Like, there is, but it's not super strong. It is mostly about the characters, and I really like the characters so far, so that's good, really promising. We follow Kai, and Kai is a demon, and he is known as the Witch King, and he wakes up and he is basically trapped and he has been killed, and he reaches out to like basically his friend that he has this connection to, and she is also trapped, so he manages to free himself and find his friend. So we are flashing back to the past and learning about how Kai came to be in the mortal world. And I think it kind of a little bit like Murderbot. It's very much about our main character kind of learning to be a bit more human. So definitely probably not what a lot of people thought going into it. So in the past, we're kind of learning about how Kai came to be in the world and how Kai met all of these people and how I guess we lead up to where we are now. And then in the present, they're trying to figure out what has happened to them and why they can't remember stuff and who did it to them. But like they already like have ideas of what could potentially have happened. It's mostly about them trying to track down his friend's wife. So that's the actual plot. So if that does not sound interesting to you, then you should probably skip this book. Well, I'm definitely more of a character world driven reader, so this is working for me because I'm really loving learning the history. I was afraid when I got to the first flashback. I was like, oh no, 2 timelines. But no, I'm enjoying both timelines. I'm enjoying the like kind of the world building that we're getting in the past one. I guess we're getting different aspects of like the world and magic system in both timelines, and as well as like we're getting the backstory of like the friendships and stuff like that. And now we're getting like that really solid, like it's already there, they already trust each other, and it's nice to see. And yeah, as I said, I'm having a really good time. It's kind of hard to talk about it though. Update time. So I'm now about 3/4 of the way in, I think like 309 pages into The Witch King. Just Witch King. I don't know why I keep saying The Witch King. It's just Witch King by Martha Wells, and I'm still really loving it. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a 5-star. I think so. Number one, it's way slower than I thought, but also like I am absorbed in every single word. I'm obsessed with these characters in this world. And then the other thing I want to say is this book was definitely marketed wrong, because I was gonna say it has like a pretty low average rating. It's a 3.75, I think, which isn't that low, which like you can't really trust Goodreads ratings anyway, let's be honest. But it's like low enough, I think, especially compared to like the Murderbot books. Like I both get it, and also I'm slightly confused because I would think the people that are going into this book are a lot of them are probably fans of Murderbot. And if that's the case, I don't see why people aren't liking this as much, because it's very much a similar vibe, like kind of chaotic main character who is not human but is kind of trying their best to be human, and like revolves around kind of a found family. So like I mean, on the one hand I'm kind of confused why people aren't liking this as much, because it is very similar vibe, I think, to Murderbot. But then I'm like, but there is people that aren't going into it from Murderbot, or if they are, they're going into it because of the way it was marketed as a fantasy book, which like the words thrown around were like dark and epic, and that it's not this book. And so I think people went in with the wrong expectations, and like that is not it. That is not it. Obviously our main character can do really dark, horrible things, and does occasionally do them. Majority of the time he's quite a sweet character, so it is not a very dark story, and it is also not a very epic story. The actual plot of it is a demon, his best friend, teaming up to try and find out who killed him and trapped them in a box and trying to find her wife. That's the story. And like the trying to find the wife part is honestly more important. Hello. So I've officially finished The Witch King by Martha Wells, and it's 5 stars. Like I haven't really told you much, but also I have nothing much more to add, to be honest. There's a bit of action and all of that, but it's definitely focused on the characters, and I love the characters. I did really like the world. See, I feel like I'm just saying things that like, if you don't like this, don't read it. Like if you don't like a lot of traveling in your books, don't read this. If you don't like a little bit of a softer magic system, don't read this. I did like it. I did like how it was explained, and I loved the world. I love the characters. This book, it was for me. It's definitely my style of book. I was a bit afraid when we started getting the past timeline because I was like, oh no. And again, I think that is something that like could be off-putting for some people because you definitely don't get as much as that. And you get some of that in the present timeline as well through like hints and stuff. But I enjoyed the back and forth and how like the moments kind of tied together. Like we see a moment of this person, you know, becoming important in the past, and then we see that reflected in the future, and I enjoyed that. And as I said, it definitely isn't a hard magic system. It's definitely a little more vague, but I do think that it like had rules, just maybe not as explained as some people might like. I liked her kind of play on demons, and we kind of where we come from. Like some places think of demons as like how you would automatically assume of demons, and then other people like demons like they're not at all like these like evil creatures. They're just like part of the world and all this. And I think how all that played out was really interesting, and I did really like the world building as well. I know that this is a standalone, but I would read like a whole series like just set in different parts of the world, like companion novels, whatever. Like yeah, I would love to, because like obviously the standout in here was that I love the characters. That is what made it a 5-star for me. I loved them. I loved their dynamic. I love just the found family element was so sweet. But I like yes, I would love to continue following them more, like see some of the stuff that they did in the past, some of the stuff that they do in the future, some of the stuff they do in the present. I don't care, give me more. Or even, as I said, I wouldn't mind like companion stuff, like follow a different demon. Up next is family lore, and I'm gonna try and listen to it all today. It is like a 9-hour audiobook, and I listen on 3 times speed, so I have nothing to do today, literally nothing. I'm gonna just listen. It's gonna be great. Hello. So it's not actually that much since I last spoke to you, but I'm now a third of the way into family lore. It's a pretty quick audiobook anyway, and so I'm about a third of the way in, I think. I don't think it's going to be a 5-star. So this story, it is a multi-generational story that follows the women of a specific family. So it follows 4 sisters and then 2 of the next generation who are cousins. I can't remember which sister they belong to though. So it follows 6 women, which for a book that is this short is too many perspectives. And that is my main problem with the story so far. I am enjoying it, but as I said, I cannot get connected to these characters with so little. Which, because with like the other 2 books that I've read from Elizabeth Ossovay though, which is The Poet X and With the Fire on High, those are focused on one character. You really understand them and feel for them, and you really connect to them. And then through this one character you learn about the family dynamics and all of this. But because of this, through all of them, we're learning different aspects of the family and how they interact with each other and all of that. And so that is interesting. And I feel like I have a good understanding of how the family is as a unit. But as the different pieces, I just don't understand them yet, because I really haven't gotten that much time with them, despite the fact I'm a third of the way into the book, because I've only had like 2 or 3 perspectives from each of them. The writing is beautiful, and Elizabeth Ossovay, she doesn't shy away from things. It's really open and honest, and I'm intrigued by the plot. So basically, as I said, it is about these 6 women mostly, and everyone else in their lives as well, but it's mostly following the 6 of them, and it's all leading up to a wake for one of the older sisters, because she can see death, but nobody knows if she has seen her own death, or if she's seen someone else's death, or if she is just doing this because she wants the family to get together. And I like it, but it's definitely, I don't think it's going to be a 5-star, which is unfortunate, but oh well. Hi. So I'm now 2/3 of the way in. I'm just flying through this book. I mean, obviously I'm just have the audiobook on, and I literally have nothing to do. My thoughts haven't changed that much since like what, an hour ago. I will say, like, literally the chapter after I last spoke to you, I started to like it slightly more. As I said in the first update, it felt very much kind of nearly big picture. This is how this family works. But the chapter after that, we got kind of a chapter focused on one of the younger generation and one of the aunts. And you really saw the two of them and how their relationship works in this bigger family dynamic. And then that kind of continued. So I feel like the first third, we were kind of getting like introductions to who they are, what they're doing right now. And also like these gifts that they have, what everyone's gift is, if they have a gift, and kind of like, oh, this is their job, this is their family situation, all of that kind of stuff. That was what this first third was. And I was just like, this is too many people. And like, I still do think it is too many people. But now we're kind of in this second third, we've kind of gotten, okay, so that's all of the people and like an overview of like the family dynamic, very complicated. There's, you know, some people are closer than others and all of that. And then in this third, we've kind of, it's been very much, okay, so this one of the four daughters and the mother's relationship, really complicated. And then, but then her daughter and the relationship with the grandmother. And then also like this daughter's relationship with the aunt and this, you know, cousin's relationship with this person. And it's very much, now we're getting like a clearer picture on how the small, on like the one-on-one relationships with each other. And it's giving a better picture of like where they are now. Because like obviously we were getting where they are and we were kind of getting, oh, I have to get better at putting down boundaries. And you're like, okay, why? And like in this one, we're like seeing these interactions which make you understand them more through like one-on-one relationships with their other families. And it's also helping evolve our understanding of like the bigger family picture. He's dealing with a lot of heavy topics and kind of touching on them. And I'm just, because it's so short, I mean, at the point where I'm at, I feel like none of them have really started to feel like we're having a full discussion on this. Like there's just discussions of like fertility issues, miscarriage, like cheating, abusive relationships, immigration, like the prison system. Like we are touching on a lot, and I don't even think I've covered half of it. And this is a 9-hour audiobook. And at the point we're at, I feel like we haven't fully explored any of those. Does that make sense? I don't think that makes sense. It makes sense in my head, but very bad at putting it into words. From what I've seen of the reviews, most people kind of agree with me that just a bit too ambitious with the amount of perspectives and topics that are trying to be covered. Well, see you soon. Okay, so I finished the book. I was really struggling to try and figure out whether I wanted to give it a 3 or a 4. And so I went onto my little Notion page, which, spoilers for the end of the year. So basically I rank every single book as I read them, because at the end of the year I do a ranking every book. I'll leave my previous ones down below. I did one, I'm not sure did I do one for 2020. I definitely did one for 2021 and 2022 though. So I'll leave that down below if you want to know, because they're only like 6 minutes, so they're quick to watch. But so like from day one I start ranking because like I do not want to be doing that in December, going through every single book. And it's also useful for trying to figure out things like this, whether it's a 3 or a 4. And so I have settled on a 3-star, but I did actually have to move. I came to the conclusion that some books I had in 4 stars, I'm bumping down to 3. So sorry to them. So I have bumped The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie down from a 4 to a 3. It was like my lowest 4-star anyway, but now it is in the 3s. It's a high 3, but because like I still liked that, but I didn't love it. And then I also bumped A Daughter of No Worlds by Chris Broadman. I'm not gonna lie, complete fever dream. And I don't know, I think I went too easy on it, but it's a high 3 and I'm still gonna continue the series, maybe, we'll see. And then I have Family Lore as my top 3-star. So yeah, I suppose I should tell you the rest of my feelings. I think this second third is the strongest. I just kind of sat there and I was like, what's the point? And I think that is the point. The point is it's just a story about this family. And like, not everyone gets a happy ending. Some people do, some people don't. So yeah. And so yeah, so I found like quite a bit of it was like pretty open-ended. And again, I kind of like, I think I see why, I see the vision with this story. But it just didn't work for me. I knew it was a camp reading it anyway because it's an adult contemporary. And as I said, I do see moments of brilliance and I do see like what she was aiming for. I don't think it's a bad book. It did have a lot to say. I just don't think it said everything she wanted to because she was trying to say too much. That is all for now. And I suppose I'll wrap this up next time I see you. So that brings us to the end of this very messy reading vlog. Mixed results. I mean, actually overall positive results because it was a 4, a 5 and a 3, which they're all positive for me. Obviously some more positive than others, but overall a success, I would say. So I read Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wang, gave that a 4 out of 5 stars. And actually, while I'm here talking about Blood Over Brighthaven or recapping on it, I don't think I actually showed this. I recently got the special edition of The Sword of Kaigan. I do want to own Blood Over Brighthaven, but I want the paperback to match my edition of Sword of Kaigan. And I've only seen like the red cover available in the US as paperback, which is upsetting. I want to have them side by side on my shelf. So yeah, so like I've only seen the hardcover and number one, I don't really buy that many hardcovers, and I don't think that I prefer like the red cover as opposed to like the hardcover version. So I have it like saved in the mind to like keep checking every so often. As I said, I did actually recently though get this beautiful edition of The Sword of Kaigan, which has gilded silver edges, like literally like, sorry if I hurt your eyes. So anyway, so this is the cover, like beautiful artwork. That is the spine, and then on the back it says, wholeness she had learned was not the absence of pain but the ability to hold it. So then underneath it looks like this, and again just really shiny silver. And inside we have these gorgeous end papers and a bit of map. And yeah, and then where is it? It is signed. You can't really, there we go. And this is edition number 22 out of 4,000. So nice. It already did a bit of a mini haul in here, but I didn't haul that one because I think I just came home from work one day and it was just there and I got excited and I didn't think to take the phone out to film it. But honestly, one of the most beautiful books I now own. So exciting. So Blood Over Brighthaven, 4 stars. I liked it. I didn't quite connect to it as much as The Sword of Kaigan, but I still think it had some really important things to say. And I think overall I really enjoyed it. And I think I can see a lot of people really loving it. And on the opposite side is Witch King by Martha Wells, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars, but I can see people not loving as much as me because it is very much a me kind of story. Definitely extremely character driven. Very like found family orientated, about like kind of finding yourself, finding humanity, but I still love the world, I love the characters, and I just really love this book. Okay, I just loved it. And then the final book I read was Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo, and I gave it 3 stars, and I think it's going to be a book that gets a lot of mixed opinions, but the people that love it are going to really love it. I didn't feel like anything got resolved, but I don't think that was the aim. So it's very weird because like on the one hand I'm like it did what it wanted to do, but for me as a reader that wasn't satisfying, and so it's so hard to kind of give it a rating. But I did like it, I just didn't love it, and I give it 3 stars. So yes, so those are 3 of the books that I read in this video, and stay tuned for I know a couple weeks time when I will be doing a part 2, and I will be doing Chalice of the Gods, Fragile Threads of Power, and Labyrinth's Heart. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.